Persistence, it is more than a mere act of stubborn will. It is the quiet force that sustains the human soul in moments of doubt, pain, and defeat. In the timeless teachings of this book, persistence is painted not as a quick fix or a momentary push but as a way of life, a sacred contract between one's vision and one's actions. It is the thread that binds dreams to reality, the bridge that connects desire with destiny. The heart of this book beats with the idea that every person, no matter how ordinary they may seem, holds within them a fire, the spark of a vision, a dream, a calling. But dreams, as beautiful as they are, do not come to fruition merely by wishing or waiting. They demand something more. They ask for faith in action, resilience in the face of rejection, and, above all, a persistence so strong that it becomes unshakable. The book teaches that persistence is the soul's discipline. It is forged in struggle, shaped by setbacks, and powered by belief, not always belief in circumstances, but belief in oneself. We are reminded, through gentle yet powerful storytelling, that the journey to success is not a straight line. It zigzags through disappointment, criticism, ridicule, and sometimes even loneliness. But those who persist, those who continue even when the world says, give up, are the ones who eventually reach the summit. Think of Thomas Edison, who failed thousands of times before the light bulb illuminated his vision. His genius was not just in invention, but in his refusal to stop trying. The book does not idolize such figures, it humanizes them, showing us that they, too, wrestled with doubts and fatigue, but it was persistence that pulled them through. In one story from the book, we meet a young woman named Elena who dreamed of opening her own art gallery. Coming from a modest background, with no connections and little capital, she faced obstacle after obstacle. Rejection letters from landlords, banks denying her loans, and even loved ones urging her to seek something more realistic. But Elena held onto her dream like a sacred promise. She took on side jobs, sold her art on the streets, studied late into the night, and built relationships with local artists. Years passed. Progress was slow, but one day, a gallery space opened up, and through sheer grit and trust, she seized the opportunity. Her gallery eventually flourished, not because it was easy, but because she persisted through the storm. What makes this book so profound is its honesty. It does not romanticize struggle. It acknowledges that there will be days when getting out of bed feels like a war. When your mind is louder with doubt than hope. When others seem to soar ahead while you crawl. And yet, it gently insists that these are the very moments when persistence matters most. When no one is watching, when there's no applause, if you can keep going then, you have already won. The book also touches on a powerful insight, that persistence is not about brute force. It is not mindless repetition. True persistence requires reflection. It requires adaptation, learning, and course correction. If a door remains closed after repeated knocks, persistence invites you to look for another door, another window, another way in. It's not simply about continuing, it's about evolving without giving up. Another key lesson emerges in the form of internal resistance. The book beautifully explores how often, the greatest barriers are not external but internal: fear, self-doubt, perfectionism, impatience. Persistence, then, becomes an inner battle. Winning it means making peace with temporary failure, speaking kindly to yourself when the voice inside gets harsh, and taking the next small step even when the destination feels out of sight. A poignant section delves into the role of belief. Belief, the book says, is the oxygen of persistence. Without it, our efforts suffocate. But belief is not always an innate gift, often, it must be cultivated. Through journaling, prayer, reflection, community, and even solitude, belief can be nurtured like a garden. The book encourages readers to write down their why, the deeper reason they began the journey. Not just for wealth or status, but for freedom, purpose, healing, love. Reconnecting with that why, again and again fuels the engine of persistence. There is also a spiritual undercurrent throughout the text. Persistence is painted not just as a psychological habit, but a spiritual calling. When we persist in the direction of our soul's truth, we are in communion with something greater, with life itself, with God, with destiny. Each step forward, no matter how small, is an act of reverence. Even failure becomes sacred, because it shapes us. It humbles us. It teaches us. The book speaks of the Japanese concept of kintsugi, the art of repairing broken pottery with gold, making the flaws part of the beauty. Persistence is like that. It turns your scars into strength. Real-life examples flow throughout the book. Single mothers rebuilding their lives after heartbreak, immigrants learning a new language while working 2 jobs, people overcoming addiction, trauma, and poverty, all held together by one invisible power: persistence. It's not their talent, not their luck, not their privilege, but their refusal to give up, their unwavering hope in the face of adversity, that becomes their victory. There's a chapter that speaks directly to those who feel tired, who have been fighting a long time without seeing the fruit of their labor. It acknowledges the weariness, the frustration, the tears. But it offers a gentle reminder: sometimes, the breakthrough comes not at the peak of strength, but in the final step of exhaustion. That moment when you feel like giving up may actually be the very moment before everything changes. The night is darkest just before the dawn. The author also emphasizes the importance of surrounding yourself with people who nourish your vision. Persistence thrives in community. Find those who speak life into your journey, who remind you of your power when you forget it. Avoid the voices that ridicule your dreams, not because they are evil, but because they have forgotten their own. Protect your environment. Build a world around you that supports your persistence. The book also warns against the seductive power of comfort. So many give up not because they failed, but because they settled. Comfort is the silent killer of destiny. It lulls us into complacency. The path of persistence requires discomfort, not as punishment, but as preparation. Discomfort is where muscles are formed, both physically and spiritually. Embrace it, honor it, let it shape you. One of the closing reflections in the book is this: the person you become through persistence is far more valuable than the goal itself. Yes, the dream matters. But the character, courage, and clarity you gain along the way, that is the true treasure. You begin as someone chasing a vision, and through persistence, you become someone worthy of living it. That transformation is the miracle. In the end, Persistence is not just a book about not giving up, it's a guide for living fully, with depth, with purpose. It invites us to rise, again and again, no matter how many times we fall. It teaches that persistence is love in motion, love for a dream, love for a calling, love for life itself. To persist is to declare to the world and to yourself, I believe in something greater. I believe in me. So if you're standing at a crossroads, if your spirit feels heavy, if the path seems too long, pause, breathe, remember why you started, and take the next step. Not because it's easy, not because you're sure, but because something within you knows, this matters. And that knowing, that quiet, sacred knowing, is the seed of persistence. Water it, honor it, and let it lead you home.